people who have access to the internet and who are currently using it to watch this video. My name is Pun Food, or just Pun if you prefer. And last time on Pikmin 4, we mainly just did Louis over there, Louis' quest. Because I didn't want to go over all this stuff when we already had like a full episode. So let's start by going through Olimar and Louis' notes for the treasure catalog and Picklepedia. We're gonna start with the new treasures because or the treasures first because that's what we're gonna do. I also want to look at all the sets all lined up. Gotta have all our ducks in a row. These look fun. Okay. Yeah, fine. That one looks just fine, I guess. Also just fine, but let's see the puzzle. Yeah. Some kind of dog. I don't know what breed of dog that is. Extravagant breakfast. Pretty cool. All the sacred spheres. Spring crops. Summer fruit. Autumn harvest. Winter reserve. Tropical pickings. Bedtime. 3 generations. Gourmet. Soulful musician. Yeah. Great adventure. Roundabout Express. Oral arguments. Assembled courage. Soulful artist. Ancient secrets. Gifts from the sages. Paleontology. Point of honor. Newly nostalgic. I like that they have the 2 Joy-Cons next to each other. If they didn't, that would have been sad. Ultra hyper technology. Nature's candy. Sword and shield. Wait. Are there only... No, there's... I got every sword. Why is there only 2 pink ones? That's weird. Toys of Giants. Collection Obsession. And Hands of Fate. Okay. Now we have to go through all these. So, personally, I care more about Olimar's notes than Louis' notes, so we're gonna start with Louis. Louis also seems like he's gonna go quicker. This thing is huge. It'll take a... Well, I can't do Louis' voice to read all these, because, like, Louis' voice for me was just... So I'll make it augmented. This thing is huge. It'll take a whole day to eat this in its entirety. Still not sure if it's edible. Also not sure if something can taste as handsome as it looks. This seems like the right portion size for me. I like this color. Gives off a chill aura. Licking it is fun, but it tastes much better if you bite right into it. It's near impossible to eat this without losing a drop of cream in the process, a challenge I gladly accept. A crunchy and uncomplicated treat. If the missing part is out there somewhere, I will find it, and then I will eat it too. It's like an optical illusion. If I keep alternating bites by color, would I ever make it to the last morsel? There's something about this flavor that makes it impossible to stop eating. Not that I've tried it very hard. There's only one way to eat this first. First, lick up the jam, then eat the battery petals until all that remains are crumbs. Then eat the crumbs. If you break it in half first, it's much easier to... Is that a reference to Link being able to go down to like half a heart? Okay. The creamy edge is delectable, but alternating each bite is a brown topping of a more savory experience. Very filling. A strange way to serve toothpaste. The touch of bitterness makes it that much easier to eat. I slid myself right under the metal archway and took a nice cozy nap. I bet this would bring in the big bucks. I set it on fire and it melted. It smells yummy, but unfortunately it's inedible. This would be a great gift for Nana. She could use something shiny. I'm pretty sure this jewel is a fake. I stepped inside the circle and spun it all around me. Seems viable for a ring toss. Maybe walking through it brings you good luck. Apparently I should be able to lift this pretty easily, but I gave up that for my first try. I like to imagine I'm petting a soft little green creature. Hold it tightly between our arms and roll. Feels amazing. I can smell the salty remnants of sweat and tears on this thing from a mile away. What a pleasant rattling sound. I could listen to it all day. I can't help but wonder why this isn't a rice cracker. Getting angry is a good way to spur your appetite. Suddenly I miss Nana and I'm overcome by all these sad feelings. Riding dogs is fun. The first time I was licked by a dog, I thought it was going to eat me. If I had to guess, there's something really valuable hidden inside. Proved very useful when I stuck it in the ground to mark a spot I wish to return to. Could be useful for plating food. The holes might be a problem, but otherwise it's perfect. I think this might be money. Hopefully I'll be able to collect some more. The more I look at it, the tastier it gets. The spikes give it that extra little something. I bet the dog was a comfy form of transport. I bet this dog was a comfy form of That almost sounds like Louis wasn't entirely conscious during the fight. Because he says, I bet this dog. Interesting. No, always told me you should build something from the outside in. Reminds me of a meal I once had once. Now I'm drooling. The soup. At least it looks like soup. Wouldn't you want to hit your head on an edge as hard as this? I'm getting strong chocolate vibes. Reminds me of a dog. I'd like to take it for a ride. Looks a lot like a dog. I'm not sure how comfortable it would be to ride. No idea what this is. It's definitely inedible. Licked it, but didn't get a lot of flavor. I guess it's not a cracker. I bit my head into one of the openings. Felt better than expected. I fit my head into one of the openings. It was underwhelming. Hold on to one of the nubs and swing to create a gentle breeze. Open the lid for a peek and fell straight in. I've never tasted better. Can be toasted, stuffed with all kinds of fillings or slathered in jam, but it tastes best as is. For eating, drinking, and napping, just set it on the ground and fill the pockets with juice, lay down, and enjoy. Slightly salty, dip in something sweet to enhance the flavor. I'll save this to drop it in a hole sometime. I like how round and smooth it is. I can't stop touching it. I like to have a whole collection of balls like this. They look so nice all lined up. Fun to roll. Makes the most exhilarating sounds when it knocks into something. Would make a nice gift for Nana. She likes pretty things like this. Could I stand and balance on the ball, or would I just fall? I must find out. Just looks cool, but totally doesn't know it. Looks only. This is the kind of ball that at home in the middle of the crowd. I should draw the boss's face on and roll it far, far away. Eat them as is or with a dollop of cream. The sweetest juice is concentrated at the tip. The balance between sweet and sour is almost addictive. I always want just one more bite. My face scrunches up in a little prune every time I eat this fruit, just like Nana's does. It might be genetic. Whenever I dig into one of these and it's full of big seeds, it feels like nature's pulling another classic bait and switch. Part of the moments that will satisfy you is a mouthful of bitterness. Scoop out the flesh and pour syrup into the shell to make a pool. Add fruit back into the syrup and marinate for at least an hour. Then dive into the sticky juices and devour. It's both a snack and a workout. Cut the fruit into smaller pieces and crush, squeezing out the juice. Add gelatin to the juice. Pour into molds, and refrigerate for half a day. Remove jellies from mold and devour. To enjoy this fruit, all you need to do is take a big bite and let its sweet juices flood your taste buds. Don't waste your time peeling these. The texture of the fruit is soft and plump, but the skin adds a nice crunch. If eating these raw, you'll want to remove the skin to avoid a bitter aftertaste. To make juice, leave skins on and mash the fruit with your feet. Great for working out pent-up aggression. Sprinkle with a hit of salt to enhance its sweetness. Pull off juice pockets one by one and sip their contents. Macreate the remaining fruit with sugar and enjoy it on top of your ice cream or yogurt. Squeeze the juice over the fish or meat if you want to diffuse their color. Not just a snack, but a cleansing opportunity for your whole body. Try them dried for a chewy treat. It takes forever to ripen and only a few seconds to eat, one of life's greatest tragedies. Smells divine. Gently press the flesh near the stem to determine ripeness. If it's soft, then it's ready to eat. If it's still hard, then you'll have to exercise some patience. I consider this more of a drink than a fruit. The black seeds are delightful and have a satisfying grainy mouthfeel, but I don't recommend eating the fuzzy exterior. It has fewer seeds and tastes a hint sweeter than its green counterpart. Used for extracting fruit juices, but could serve as a cup if necessary. Don't throw away all that stringy white stuff. It's full of nutrients and adds some excellent texture to a smoothie. Too sour to eat on its own, but squeeze the juice over the fried chicken to add a refreshing hint of flavor. Save the peel and use it to add a citrusy aroma to your bath. Drop it in the warm water and relax. Crispy yet juicy, light yet hearty. Always check for worms before taking a big bite. If you find one, it's a sign of good luck. Peeling this fruit is a sure way to dye your fingers purple, and it'll be a while before they go back to normal. Tastes rich and satisfying. So buttery you could almost confuse it with the real thing. Almost. Confuse it with the real thing? Oh, butter. Okay. Packed with seeds. Don't stare at them for too long or you might start to feel a bit dizzy. It sort of looks like a sea cucumber until you slice it open. Then you're basically staring at a starfish. Its meat has a subtle sweetness and it's almost creamy. If I close my eyes while eating it, I'm transported to a tropical locale. Ah, the taste of healthy yet unremarkable choices. I guess so, yeah. Despite its intimidating exterior, the inside is surprisingly sweet. If you eat the right ones, you'll be in for a more colorful surprise when you relieve yourself the next day. Interesting. Oh, I guess those labels are just banana. I don't know why they didn't just take off the stickers. You do realize bananas don't naturally have stickers on them, do you, game? Anyway. I jumped down on it and I was engulfed by a cloud of white smoke. This smells like soap. Maybe I wouldn't need to shower anymore if I slept on it. Useless for sleeping. Its shape keeps making my mouth water and I can never fall asleep hungry. I bit into this object while half asleep. It was completely devoid of flavor. Cute hat, but makes it hard to see. Flip it upside down, crawl underneath, and you got an instant fort. I'm fighting the urge to edge nose hair or a mustache. Oh, angry eyebrows. Probably used to drink baths al fresco. The woody smell is quite soothing. If I put this on my head, I look just like Nana. Walking on the rim of this object is a thrilling yet difficult challenge. Big enough that no one will notice if I slice off a bit to sample the flavor. Perfect for dipping. The right sauce can bring out all kinds of unexpected flavors in it. Aromics, whatever. A more sophisticated palate will appreciate the notes of umami and the yellow sponge-like layer. An excellent palate cleanser puts you in the mood for a strong cup of tea. An unpredictable culinary experience. It's up to the eater to decide which part to eat first. At first I mistook it for a giant clam. My stomach growls every time I tap it. Could it be a fruit? Looks like there's some kind of seed on the inside, but the husk is inedible. I made the mistake of entering the golden bowl and wringing it from within. The noise was deafening. Beware, it's easy to get stuck when you climb up into it. Despite its appearance, this is not a chocolate bar. I chipped a tooth when I tried to bite through the foil wrapper. I put my face through one of the holes and smelled something odd. I can't wait to scare the boss with this thing. This would be the perfect musical accompaniment to a cup of fruit juice. Nana used to sing me a special lullaby to put me at ease. I would instantly fall asleep. This song is positively invigorating. I can't stop listening to it. The sound this makes would wake even a deep sleeper like Nana. Reminds me of Nana. So fun to jump up and down on it. When I looked through it from the bigger end, everything seemed tiny. I felt like a giant. The long stick ticks along a lot faster than the short one. If I had to pick, I'd choose the laid-back one. Okay. Could be useful for food storage. I just need to figure out how to open it. As fun as it is to make food appear larger, this object can't actually increase the amount. Very difficult and uncomfortable to ride. An enjoyable place to sit and play. Place your order on the right and pick it up at the left window. Beware, service is slow. The fact he's getting service at all is interesting. Comfy digs. I wouldn't mind staying here for a while. The color makes me hungry for some delicious fruit. I kept thinking the next time I jump into one of those holes, I'm going to fall to my doom. Oh, okay. I got my head stuck in one of the gaps. My panic screaming loosened it enough for me to get free. I'm unsettled by both the shape and the color. Interesting. Shake it, and you'll hear the unmistakable sound of money. I wish I could eat all the big things that this mouth could eat. I like to bury my face in the long, soft fur. There's something soothing about the way it smells. Gave it a whiff, and all I got was a nose full of nostalgia. This reminds me of my Nana. She used to feed me milk from this kind of thing. Perfect for catching critters, big and small. Just leave a little bait in there and see what happens. The rotating action will work great for mincing garlic. I wonder how much this would sell for if reassembled. Perfect for tenderizing meat. They say peace and love go hand in hand. Neither seem to add much in terms of flavor. True. I've been looking for something like this for mashing potatoes. If I have a dominant hand, does that mean I have a dominant foot? If so, which one is it? I find the color unsettling. He doesn't like red, it seems. Interesting. Meaning that he probably, doesn't, and that's like probably like in reference to like Olimar being, you know, he doesn't like Olimar particularly or something. I don't know. My whole mouth turned blue after one lick, and some other stuff coming out blue for the next few days. Probably won't eat it again, even if it is my favorite color. So blue is Louie's favorite color. Makes sense. But he doesn't like red. Makes me think of my favorite yellow foods. Reminds me of the color of almost frozen lips. Brr. Yep. My teeth have been sparkling white ever since I used this brush on. I wonder if it took care of my cavities too. Probably not. The boss likes to wear this color. Guess it suits grown-ups. I look like a ripe fruit when I cover my face with this stuff. It makes me even hungrier. I look at this color and think about ice cubes. It doesn't matter how many I eat, they never fill me up. If I painted my whole body with this color, would it disappear forever or never get lost? Interesting. Yeah, guess so. The right hand is holding up a generous serving of soft serve ice cream. Chocolate, if I had to guess. All I'm getting are greedy vibes. There's no way I'd win a staring contest against her. Deciding what to eat is a quandary that will forever thwart the mind. As soon as it's resolved, it begins anew. This made a nice snack for someone. If there's a way to enjoy eating rocks, I would like to know how. Oh, because the arms are missing. The shape itself is familiar, but that's it. This bears a striking resemblance to something else. Something else. I mean, I guess it kind of looks like Louis, but what is he referring to? It's been a long time since I've been face to face with such beauty. I can feel my heartbeat in my eardrums. Strange taste, my guy. I'd like to take a ride on either of these creatures. I looked to his smaller end. It was a little salty. The rest was pretty unappetizing. Could be handy to have when collecting fruit and you're too tired to keep count. I'm not sure if I'm using this thing correctly. It looks like it has buttons, but they can't be pushed. Is it like... I wonder what... Is he pushing the solar panels? I don't know. It's a nice place to lay and think about the day. The adjustable pads mold to your body shape. Guess so. The head and tails have the same flavor and texture. Tastes like fish. Just one splash of this creature's liquefied innards improves the flavor of any dish. I'll never leave home without it. It only took one bite of the charred space newt to straighten Nana's bad back. I wonder what medicinal properties this might have. An excellent tool for mashing and gathering fruit. Cold to the touch, but fun to climb. If two people work together, they could use it to drop fruits from a considerable height. I think I get what he's getting at. Okay. Think of all the hard-shelled snacks I could open with this thing. I jumped out of my skin the first time the display lit up. Oh, it's so shiny. I can't decide if I'm drawn to it or if I should run in the other direction. Nothing and no one tells me what to eat. I've been looking for a tray like this to use at mealtimes. It looks pretty easy and to carry too. No more meals will be lost to the poorly placed wall. Interesting. The color of this thing reminds me of a really delicious fruit. It makes for a great back massager. Look at all those buttons and a rotating nub thing. I'm not letting anyone else touch this. It's mine. But I thought he didn't like red. Interesting. There's a ball hiding inside this thing for some reason. Take it out and you can't roll it anymore. Okay. It opens and then it closes. That's pretty fun. I see it as 2 rotating nubs, but it's unclear which one I should play with. These would enhance any video game experience. I climbed on top of the knobs. The middle one was the most comfortable. Oh, is this a reference to the 3DS? Probably. So fun to ride. Oddly difficult to see through. I have no idea what's in front of me. Exquisite balance of sweet and sour. The umami flavor almost doubles when cooked with meat. Yummy but not very filling. These delights grow fast, but not faster than I can eat them. I'd be happy to prove it. Stir fry over medium heat to get that melty inside and crunchy exterior. When left unattended, its leftovers will begin to sprout. I might try burying it underground to see if it takes root. Bake in a hot oven until you can pierce the middle with a fork. Slather with butter while still warm. Scoop out the flesh, then bake to elicit a fruity sweet flavor. Crack open the shell to snack on the crunchy nuts inside. Don't forget a drink. These make you thirsty. Can be grilled or sautéed, but I like it best when eaten raw. Shimmers and sparkles in the sunlight. It's bewitching. A jolly donut on the verge of exploding. Comfortable spot for a quick nap. The mouth is huge and trying to eat something. Floating cookies, I think. Could be easily mistaken for some kind of jewel and sold for a hefty sum. I'd like to find more of these. I like the way it looks when it's plunged into a fruit. Looks a lot like grass. It's fun to stab fruits with this thing. Interesting color. I'll never have to use a fork again. When a shaft of sunlight hits the handle just so, its beauty overwhelms me and it's like I've been transported into a painting. Thought I'd take it out on the water, but it sank as soon as I boarded. This fish is too hard to chew. Inedible. My eyes, they can't stop spinning. So fun. Not the most comfortable bird to ride, but I like its color. I was disappointed to learn that it can't fly. Shame. Maybe we could sell this for a profit. I bit into it, thinking it was a fruit. Sadly, it's not. You would think Louie's favorite color would be like red or yellow or something, because blue is such an unnatural color for like food to be. You know? I don't know though. You may be able to poke something with the spiky part. The sound of it getting crumpled up sends shivers up my spine in a good way. I've always wanted to play the trumpet. I like the look of this character, seems like a fun companion. The symbols remind me of mock bottoms. I'm hungry again. Oh, okay. All I see are empty plates and in need of some food. Works well for a makeshift fan and even features a picture of a salad. Also fans my appetite. A salad? I wouldn't really call that a salad, but okay. I've had a lot of sweet fruits that look like the ones shown here. A collection of jewels such as this would sell for a lot of cash. Looks like a veritable garden of crunchy sandwich fillings. When I see this, all I want is more. Only useful when deciding between 12 or less options for your next meal. Fun to watch because it rolls so well. I'm not sure which is luckier, 1 or 6. Climb at your own risk. The bird looks like it has a lot of meat on its bones. Puts me in the mood for snacking. White and round, I'd eat it. Reminds me of the time I lost my lunch after drinking some rainwater. I bet this piece would sell for a lot of money. And that's all of the Louis dialogue for treasures. So, we have to do Olimar next, but I need a drink of water before we continue. Okay. The first time I laid eyes on this giant treasure, I thought it was a giant aquatic monster. It took me a few paralyzing seconds to realize that it's just a statue. What a relief! If such an attractive creature were to attack me, I'd be too entranced to run away. Has well-proportioned facial features and a smooth exterior. Its hollow interior allows it to float on water. I thought long and hard about what creature inspired this treasure, and before I knew it, I was petting its beak. I'm powerless in the face of cuteness. Compared to the other treasures found, this sculpture is tiny, yet with its beak turned out courageously upward and its round eyes brimming with the spirit of adventure, I can't help but admire its gallant image. Beauty really can be found around any corner. When I was a kid, I coveted a black leather jacket that hung in a shop window. It was so cool. I begged my parents to buy it for me, but they just scoffed in my face. So I saved up my pocket change for a month and finally bought it myself. Turns out wearing a leather jacket during the peak of a Hockatate summer is a shortcut to getting a heat stroke. That was the last time I ever tried to be cool. Oh, Olimar, you're already cool, man. A gigantic, brightly colored stick of candy adorned with a ribbon. My guess is that it was meant to be a gift for a child, and would be a great souvenir to bring back to my own kids. I'll need to keep a close eye on the spaceship temperature to prevent its melting during transportation. I hear this item was discovered in a bright and open area unlike other caves I've encountered. What's more, it was presented on a large silver plate. I wonder why it was there. Is it a form of entertainment for visiting guests, or maybe we are the guests? Is it a form of entertainment for visiting guests? Or maybe we are the guests? I don't know what that means. It's sweet but not too sweet, salty but not overly so. It tastes like something a more refined palate would appreciate, perhaps belonging to someone whose tastes were developed over the course of many years. Stealing a bite of food before it's been served is quite rude, but I understand the impulse. My son and I are always waiting outside the kitchen, itching to try whatever my wife's been cooking. Thankfully, she finds it charming, or we'd have to curtail the habit. This pattern always reminds me of our family game nights. We like to play board games, but it would be even more enjoyable if we could eat the boards after. I was curious to know if the flavor was as playful as designed, so I took a bite. Tastes normal. Sweets don't just simply disappear of their own accord. There has to be some sort of scientific explanation. To test my theory, I've laid out the cookies and am waiting. Normally, I'd have given in to my urge to eat them, but I must stay strong. Before we got married, my wife took a compatibility test to assess our relationship. It was all for a laugh, but we got a 120%, indicating that we would be eternally happy together. I don't really believe in all that fortune-telling stuff, but that test got it right. Aw, that's sweet. In my line of work, encountering tough situations and feeling like your life is in danger is all part of the job. But something about this cookie makes me feel like I have the strength to make it through. Looks like I have an extra heart if my first one runs out. Aw. Children are fascinating by jiggling objects like this. I know my kids would lose their minds if they encounter this gelatinous tower. I consider myself a mature adult, and even I'm fighting the urge to climb on the top of this jiggling hill. At our wedding, our friends gave my wife and I a spaceship-shaped cake that looked a lot like this one. It wasn't as big, but it resonated with my dreams of exploring space. Of course, my dreams are slightly different now, but I'm happy as I still have my wife by my side. Oh my god, Olimar, my guy. One whiff of this brings me back to the long days of summer, eating ice cream with my kids. This fragrance smells like their favorite flavor, bright and refreshing. At first I didn't want to try it, but my children insisted. Now it's my favorite ice cream flavor too. So I'm guessing his favorite's mint chip, which, to be fair, mint chip is my second favorite after vanilla, so, yeah. I understand. My wife and I have been together for a long while, but our relationship has never been as perfectly poised as this cake. Maybe it's because I'm always flying around space and she's at home trying to keep things together. We really are due for a date night. Yeah, as soon as you get home, Olimar, you go on a date night. Tell your boss, hey, I got shipwrecked, and so I need to take a couple days off to recuperate from the trauma, right? It's a common practice to present an expensive gift to your intended when you propose. I didn't have the means to do so when my wife and I became engaged, and I've always regretted that fact. But at least I still love her as much as I did then. Man, That's sweet. That all of Olimar's dialogue so far has mostly been centered around like his wife, it seems. Like he's had a lot of talking about, his wife and kids and his family. It's great. Apparently, if you can jump over this, you'll be blessed with great wealth. I'm not the superstitious type, but I'm tempted to give it a try. I could use the extra cash. The only things standing in my way are my poor middle-aged hip joints. It's a multisensory art experience. You got the flicker of the flame, the texture of the body, and that glorious scent that just melts into your surroundings. It's so soothing and calming. I'm getting a bit sleepy. Here. It is a sleep div... My daughters love shiny jewels and trinkets for as long as I can remember. She used to be happy enough with pretty stones and pieces of sea glass, but now all she wants are the more illustrious items like this. That doesn't bode well for my wallet's future. No, it does not. This gemstones is large but looks kind of cheap. I've only just started to accept that one day someone might propose to my own daughter with a gift like this. I know I should probably give that person a warm welcome, but I already don't like them. I read somewhere that some colors can have certain effects on your body. This color seems to calm my mind and help me recover my composure when I'm feeling frazzled in the field. It has an almost healing effect. The science of colors intrigues me. For example, I can feel my instincts sharpen and my zest for life intensify when I gaze upon this hue. What would happen if I were to walk through this ring with my wife? Perhaps its powers could reignite the spark between us. Interesting. People tend to gather with those who are like-minded, and eventually they become friends and partners. If you want to build a circle of good friends, you must be the kind of person whose company you enjoy. Then you find companionship with yourself as well. True. I'm no longer trying to catch anyone's eye, but as the sole breadwinner, I need to prioritize my health so I can support my family for years to come. The problem is, I'm so busy supporting them, there's not a lot of time left for push-ups. We'll see how it all turns out. I mean, in Hey Pikmin, you could see Olimar working out in his ship, and you could argue that going to the Pikmin planet is working out, Growing up, I wasn't one for chasing balls or shedding tears over a win or a loss, but my passions were equally absorbing. I wonder why this giant fuzzy spear has me thinking of more youthful days, and what they were like for the inhabitants of this planet. Its hard outer shell could withstand severe environments, but the inside appears to be unexpectedly soft. The geological layers are breathtaking. If I had to guess, I'd say this is a scale model of a celestial body. I just can't explain why I want to hit it with a stick. I can verify that there are indeed 108 stitches on this ball. I counted them myself. The process took me all night to complete. As an explorer, it's important to question things in order to survive, but I should be careful not to overdo it. But, where am I? Okay. When I hear the sound this makes, the word paycheck immediately comes to mind. It's followed quickly by the image of my wife's face and her voice reciting our monthly household budget in full. Food, tuition, medical bills, the list goes on, and whenever I hear a joyful song, I'm transported back to my family celebrations with live music and dancing. I see my family all dressed to the nines, looking at me with silly expressions on their faces. I hope to witness that again one day soon. A few years ago, my wife suspected I had betrayed her in some way or another, and she was furious at me. She was so enraged she could have turned the whole house upside down. It was terrifying, yet comforting to know I still ignited such passion within her. Yeah, I guess so. It's a good way to look at it. Here we go. What is the purpose of emotions? They give our lives meaning and balance. One could not survive a life of pure sorrow, so we must find delight in things. A life of pleasure would become monotonous, so we should appreciate the bad as much as the good. I may not be the most graceful dancer, but who really cares? I'd like to let the music take over and allow my body to go with the flow. Sometimes my wife and I will be freestyling, and it looks like so much fun the kids forget to be embarrassed and can't help but join in. Yeah. My son is a known prankster, and likes to catch my wife and me by surprise. One time he leapt out from behind a garden gnome, and my wife jumped so high in surprise that she threw out her back. Since then, we have established a strict no Strict household, no surprises policy. How many times have I heard my family complain about a jar that won't open or a door that won't open, and there I am saying, just run it under hot water, or push, don't pull. However, I've tried both on this bag, and it literally cannot be opened. When a flower blooms on a dead tree, it's nothing short of a phenomenon. I've also witnessed flowers bloom on a Pikmin head after they drink nectar. I suspect this stick shares the same rejuvenating properties exhibited by other life forms on this planet. It's a clip. Like, how have they not recognized that it's metal and fake? Whatever. This one time, when I was a kid, my parents had a big fight and refused to speak to each other. I went back and forth, mediating until the argument was resolved. I'd like to say it was for the sake of their love, but I was just tired of waiting for dinner. Kinda true sometimes. I found that this planet is riddled with underground caverns and passageways. I love to explore this place, but it feels like I'm in constant danger of falling into a hole. This lid must have been used to warn previous inhabitants of nearby pitfalls. I'd equip the underside of this raft with floats so that it hovers above the water's surface, making it possible to sail it without sinking. Then I'd plug the holes with magnifying lenses so I could peer underwater safely. Okay. The lovely patina on this piece is evidence of a deep bond between this dog and its companion. A dog never truly forgets their owner, and an owner will remember their dog for life. Eternal truths such as this transcend all times and galaxies. I guess so. Alright, we've reached a new section. I need more water so that my voice doesn't die. Okay. The vastness of space and the unknown it contains is an unsolvable puzzle. At the start of each voyage, I set out to unravel every mystery and discover great truths, but I always find myself returning with more questions than answers. Yeah, that's true. I remember seeing something that compared it, there's a circle, and that's what we know is in the circle. So all our questions are, the circumference of the circle. So as we answer those questions, our circle expands. And so now, even though we know more, because our circumference of the circle is also bigger, we also have more questions, And I feel like that's very true, More questions than answers. At Hockaday Freight, we often divide up our cargo in order to use the ship's space more efficiently. Big companies have huge transporters to fill up, but that also means a lot less flexibility. They're still filling up their gigantic ships while we're out making deliveries. Oh, because they're waiting to okay, yeah, makes sense. As a boy, I would spend days drawing elaborate treasure maps. The buried treasure may have been junk to most, but to me it was precious. Is this a fragment of a treasure map? I doubt it, but the subject of this drawing was probably a treasure to the artist. I understand the instinct to hide something precious to you, though the word protect is probably more apt. I feel similarly about my family. I do everything in my power to give them a safe, happy life. It's a simple desire, but it motivates me to carry on. This looks just like the kind of pictures you get when you let a kid play with a camera. Blurry and too close up to see anything. I deleted all those pictures my kids took to free up memory space, but now I wish I hadn't. Imperfect memories can be the most precious. This makes me think of my dog, Bulby, back at home. I'm away for work quite a bit, so we've gone long periods without seeing each other. Yet every time I come home, he treats me as if I never left. He may be the wisest and most loving member of the family. Maybe. This unknown organism bears a strong resemblance to the dogs on my planet. I'm amazed that such a similar species could exist in the far reaches of outer space. I've heard that organic components can travel through space on meteorites and comets. Could there be a connection between my planet and this one? I don't know. As a young boy, I collected rocks and shiny objects that I held quite dear. My parents always wanted me to get rid of them, but I refused. I can't even remember where I found them all. I probably picked up most of them right in our own backyard. I'm still not sure I'm still not sure why I was so attached to a bunch of gravel, but they shone like diamonds to me. Yeah. As a child, there were many times I'd come across something unknown to me and intuitively investigate without hesitation. It worked out well for me, I believe. As an adult, I often overthink matters, so maybe I need to recapture that daring spirit of my youth. Yeah, I like how it's just a core part of Olimar's personality that he, goes and has to have answers to, everything. Why are things the way they are? The answer can be surprisingly simple. For example, my kids will often dismantle a clock or chair up a piece of bread just because they can. Maybe there's no significant reason that this picture is in pieces either. That little bump at the end makes this look like it has a nose. Noses make me think as my son when he was a baby. He'd often forget my face after I'd been gone for long stints of work and cry when I got home. But once he knew the distinctive shape of my nose, he recognized me right away. That's a very interesting trait to have be a recognizable trait, you know? Did I dream of becoming a glorified delivery man, or was adventure always my true goal given my current circumstances? Who knows? I'm proud to say I've achieved both, but the president might see it differently. I'm worried about my annual bonus. Yeah. This scent is dangerously sweet and brings to mind concentrated memories of my wife's adorable smile. But one can't subsist on the sweetness alone. You also need solid qualities like trust and patience. Having those is like a big hearty breakfast for the soul. This is an extremely dangerous food. Its light and airy appearance belies a rich and indulgent interior. Before you finish one, you're already reaching for the next. Is it even possible to deny such temptation, and do I even want to? I nap in the pilot's seat sometimes, but a cushion like this would be a great alternative. The only weird part is that it's edible. Does that mean something or someone could eat it right out from under you? That's a major drawback. Its shape is mesmerizing. I only wish I could understand how it was sculpted. The more I think about it, the hungrier I get. Thankfully, the salty and sweet, pillowy interior is as re-energizing as it is delicious. But then I start thinking again, and the cycle continues. There's nothing in the universe more interesting than the universe itself. A curious and inquisitive mind will never be satisfied, no matter how much you explore. I hope I feel this way as long as I can. It's important to stay interested in your work. It's often said that you don't realize how much your parents have done for you until it's too late to thank them. I try to show my gratitude and keep in touch as much as I can with video calls, but as soon as my kids pop up on screen, my parents forget I'm there. That's kind of sad. I know it's impossible to read minds, but I am particularly clueless when it comes to relationships. When we first started dating, my wife was gracious enough to explain how she felt in a great detail. I'm still awkward, but any social skills I do have are thanks to her. I've never minded having to start over or pick up my life at the flip of a switch. My environment and those in my social circle might change, but as long as I have my family with me, I'll still be me. They always call me out when I'm acting totally weird. It's become painfully obvious to me that the mind and body are closely linked. Spending too much time away from my family is hard on my mental health, and it visibly takes a toll on my body. Even when I eat healthy and exercise, I really miss them. It just occurred to me that I haven't had a checkup in, I'm embarrassed to say how long. You're supposed to do it once a year, but I keep putting it off. Lately, my elbow's been making an odd clicking sound every time I move it. I should get it checked out eventually. Getting lost in space is as good as a death sentence. The newest ships have technology that can locate the closest planet and initiate an emergency landing, yet they still haven't built a navigation system that can detect and avoid incoming meteorites and space trash. Interesting. It's easy to lose someone's trust, despite the fact that it takes so long to build it in the first place. But once you have that trust and support, it's much easier to achieve your goals. I'd rather be able to count on someone I can trust than leave it all up to chance. I never considered myself to be someone with a lot of inner strength or fortitude, but my wife seems to disagree. I must be playing it way too cool when we're together. This ball is meant to represent truth, but the truth is never truly black or white. It's both subjective and objective, and extremely tricky. I think the color gray would make more sense for this object, or maybe that's that hideous brown you get when you mix all the paint colors together. Yeah. I think gray would make more sense. The scent of this fruit tickles my heart for some reason. It makes me think back on summer memories. My wife smiling at me in the sunlight. She'd probably have a good laugh if she ever read this, but that wouldn't be so bad. I happen to love that sound. What a perplexing plant. It appears to be carrying two different types of berries. They must be a rare species of fruit. Both have odd traits. One seems to be a suppressant, while the other is a stimulant. It's not easy to tell which is which. What? Oh, is he talking about the... I have no idea what he's particularly talking about. In my youth, I used to power through long night shifts by sucking on sour fruit candy. It somehow energized me and kept me wide awake. I couldn't do that now, even with the candy. But it's an example of how sometimes things turning sour can work out for the best. When my first child was born, my wife and I would sit outside in the warm spring weather and take turns rocking him in our arms. Those days were filled with endless joy. The sunlight bouncing off his downy hair looked just like this. The night after I ate this fruit, I had a dream in which I saw lots of them growing clustered together on a tree. If I were able to grow and harvest that many, we'd never run out of food. I suppose we won't know what's possible until I plant the first seed. Picking the right get-well-soon gift is notoriously tricky. You're supposed to choose something you think the recipient would enjoy and ignore your own preferences. That's easier said than done. When I can't think of anything good, I usually default to some sort of food, like this fruit. I know I'm always hungry when I'm sick. One whiff of this fruit will have your mouth watering, but the taste itself is sour and slightly disappointing. However, you can't let results like this keep you from trying new things. There's no greater quality than an adventurous spirit. Extremely sweet, almost too sweet. The flavor makes you feel drowsy with joy, and you want to soak in those joyful juices forever and ever. I may need to limit my intake when it comes to this fruit. This fruit comes in bunches, so you can keep eating them and never run out. A single berry satisfies my appetite, but I'm grateful to live in a universe with such natural abundance. I noticed that the skin contains a substance with antioxidant properties. That's probably why I feel so fresh and invigorated after I eat one. I wonder how I'd feel after eating two. I look at this fruit and am instantly overcome by the urge to split it into a million pieces. I close my eyes to avoid the thought, but the impulse just got stronger. I must be holding on to a deep desire to take on and defeat a giant spherical obstacle. Numerous pockets of juice clustered around a hollow interior, much like memories both sweet and sour, that burst with meaning yet still cannot fill that empty place in one's heart. Gazing upon this fruit always fills me with regret. Okay, interesting. Seems to be a citrus lump, but younger and very green. Inexperience is usually perceived as a weakness, but its powers should not be underestimated. Many an organization has been improved by a newcomer's creative and untamed energy. This is true. I need another sip of water because my voice is dying. While observing the plant bear fruit, I was unable to work out where and when the flowers bloom. I was so frustrated that I couldn't figure out basic botany, but all those annoying feelings faded away as soon as I bit into the fruit's sweet flesh. This fruit reminds me of a particular sunset I witnessed years ago. My son and I were walking home together one evening and the sun was setting right across our path. I remember it like it was yesterday. It wasn't spectacular in the least, but I'll never forget it. There's an elegance about this fruit. Its graceful curves and subtle flavor bring to mind images of ornate ballrooms overflowing with cultured guests and blossoming flowers. The simple act of eating it makes me feel a little fancier. This fruit has a high water content and its skin is so thin that you can bite right through it. It'd be the most perfect snack to keep in your pack on a long hike through the desert, if only it didn't bruise so easily. The fruit on this planet is astonishingly large. If we could cultivate these ample fruits on Hokate, nobody would ever go hungry again. Sadly, I don't know anything about agriculture. Maybe I should have listened to my wife when she told me to do yard work. My wife went through a phase where all she talked about was Pikmin and its nutritious value. She charted our Pikmin U percentages, and then there was A and P. I never really understood what she was talking about, but she was so passionate about it I couldn't help but listen. I'd bet she'd really like to try this fruit. When I looked at the company president, I can't see myself climbing the corporate ladder. To be a manager, it seems like you've also got to be an inhuman, heartless villain. These traits allow them to squeeze their dedicated workers without mercy and still sleep at night. I feel that same merciless cruelty radiating from this metallic altar. I wonder if it was once used for dark, unspeakable ceremonies, or perhaps it was once the desk of a corporate boss. We'll never know. This fruit is so shiny and round it reminds me of a beach ball whenever I see it. Yet it's so yummy I can't help but get cravings for it and end up eating it all the time. The only drawback is that I'm constantly disappointed that I'm not on vacation. The love between my wife and I has been captured in all sorts of romantic memories, as sweet and sour as this fruit. It's fun to return to those memories and feel what I felt then. Sometimes I wonder how my kids will feel the first time they fall in love. Some people may like to peel this fruit from the top, but I prefer to attack it from the bottom instead. Whenever I go from the top, I get this tingly feeling around my belly button. I find it very unnerving. Interesting. This fruit could be hiding more than a tasty interior. On more than a few occasions, I found bugs munching their way through this sweet flesh, presumably enjoying a snack of their own. How funny to think that I share the same taste in fruit as a worm. Don't ask me how I know, but if you draw a face on this fruit, it bears an uncanny resemblance to my wife wearing a hat. Interesting. It even emits the same stylish and judgmental aura. Funny how the doodled version of her is as intimidating as the real thing. The hard, scaly shell that covers this fruit gets softer and darker as it ripens, so determining the optimal time to peel and eat it can be difficult. It's as if the fruit is actively trying to sabotage your enjoyment of it. I've never known produce to be so sneaky. I always thought it was better to eat fruit when it's ripe, but this one is just as enjoyable and nutritious when it's green. The same can be said about creatures like us. Many think maturity is superior, but inexperience and youth are what provide fresh perspectives. Yes. To look at a cross-section of this fruit, you'd think it was a drawing of a star, like one my son would make. Stars don't actually look like that, so why do we draw them this way? Maybe the secret to the universe is hidden within those 5 points. Yeah, why do we draw stars that way? It's probably something to do with how, you're drawing, pentagrams, and whatnot. And in relationship to stars and stuff. I don't know. Peeling this fruit is arduous due to its soft skin. Is arduous? Peeling this fruit is arduous due to its soft skin. When I tried to eat it without first removing the peel, a rash developed around my mouth. I had better success when I slit grid-like cuts into the skin and flipped it inside out. The results were delicious. Mangoes are related to poison ivy. I must confess, I once slipped and fell on a peel that I thoughtlessly discarded onto the floor after eating the fruit inside. I'm really too old to be making mistakes like that. I can even hear my own voice scolding myself. Don't forget to clean up your trash. Throughout my life, I've met people who seemed flashy or fancy, but were actually quite down to earth. I've also met people who were as arrogant as they looked. The same lesson should be applied to this fruit. It looks pretty intimidating, but what's on the inside? I've heard this mattress possesses miraculous relaxation properties that promise the most restless sleeper a good night of sleep. I was curious to know how this would affect me, who can literally sleep anywhere. Would I ever wake up again? Thankfully, I did. My beloved dog, Bulby, has the impressive ability to fall asleep anywhere he wants. We have that in common. The habit is also one of my wife's biggest pet peeves. Perhaps if Bulby had a designated bed, it would create a bit more harmony at the home. Research has shown that sound waves created by a chirping bird are naturally comforting and induce sleep. Now, I don't have any strong preferences when it comes to bedding, but if this makes me feel like I'm sleeping on the forest floor, it could be worth a try. This thing reminds me of this one time I was fixing the hull of the SS Dolphin. The combination of the sun and zero gravity created an illusion. It was as if a fish floating in the open sea. It was as if I was a fish floating in the open sea. But in fact, it was just me floating in a sea of space debris. I look forward to one day looking upon the face of my grandchild. If it's as cute as this one, I couldn't help but dote on them. But it doesn't really matter what they look like or if they resemble me or someone else in my family. I've always thought that grandchildren are meant to be spoiled. I used to know a guy who would never give in to his kids when they begged him for something. Yet one look from his grandkids and he'd give them anything they wanted. It seems that a grandchild possesses immense powers of persuasion. Or it's just magic. Children often exhibit both the positive and negative qualities of their parents. I think that's why we feel for them so much. What's more, we want to keep improving and even exceed the expectations we set for ourselves. It's hard work being a kid. Guess so. I've worked hard so it wouldn't be a financial burden on my I worked so hard so I wouldn't be a financial burden on my parents, and I don't want my kids to be dependent on me when they grow up. A parent's job is to raise independent children, but not too independent. You still want them to come home for the holidays. As a parent, you need to be able to hide some emotions from your children. It's harder than you think. I remember telling my parents about my career goals and seeing the disappointment in their eyes. It hurt. I'm glad it didn't pull me off my path. Once you have children, money starts disappearing faster than you can save it. My wife always says, if it's for the children, it's worth it. I admire her enormous heart still. Every year it seems like their children get more and more expensive. I never expected to find such an appetizing cut of meat in a dark underground lair. Why was it there? How was it made? And is there a reason for its large size? I imagine it was an offering to some great figure. I shall pay my respects later as well. I'm not sure why you'd want to eat raw fish. Maybe cookery on this planet advanced so far they were able to recreate the essence of the original ingredients. It'd be easier to eat if I could cut it down to smaller pieces, but that might be insulting to the chef. I understand the white granular parts on the bottom to be fish eggs. One time when I went fishing with my son, we caught a fish who was carrying eggs like these. It was a revelatory moment for him to see how life can differ from species to species. One of my favorite birthday gifts as a child was a book I received called 20,000 Millimeters Under the Sea. I believe I owe my adventurous spirit to that novel. How funny that a piece of seafood from a different planet could remind me of my childhood self. I can tell that it'd give me tons of power and stamina. I'm not athletic, but if I ate the whole thing, I'm sure I could work for 3 days straight without a wink of sleep. Now that I think about it, I don't want the president to hear about this and get any ideas. Alright, time for more water. My taste in music is highly refined, but my wife and kids have no taste at all. For example, when I ask my family if they want to go out for karaoke, they twist their faces and give me a nasty look. They don't know what they're missing. Oh, because he's a bad singer, is that it? Sometimes I miss my carefree bachelor days. Once you have a family, those days are history. I like spending time with my wife, but sometimes I just want to be alone. When I was a kid, I set off the alarm system at my primary school just to see what would happen. As predicted, I was scolded, but I have no regrets. We are naturally curious creatures. Why else would we be here? I still get the urge to set off alarms, but sadly I've gotten better at resisting those impulses. Despite its solemn appearance, the sound emitted by this object is airy and bright. It reminds me of the innocence and wonder that lives in the heart of a young child. It's important never to lose that sense of childlike wonder. I know I haven't. Unpainted spaceships look a lot like this. Shiny and ripe for adventure. As a kid, I would go down to the spaceship dock just to watch the ships being assembled. That's where I started to dream big. In reality, this is likely some kind of noisemaker. Based on its shape and where it was found, I have deduced that this is a nest for some type of aquatic creature. On Hakatate, fish are known to use sunken buildings and objects like their own underwater apartments. I'm sure many a life flourished here. I'm not sure my eardrums will ever recover from the thunderous noise emitted by this artifact. I can only imagine it played a role in many a naughty child's practical jokes. If I had one of these as a kid, I'm sure I would have been a terror. Strange, despite its calming tones, something about this melody makes my palms sweat and sends shivers up my spine. It's as if it's sending me a warning about unexpected troubles in the future. This implies, because I believe this one plays the dun 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 song. And that is the reoccurring Pikmin motif, but it's also used a lot in Pikmin 3's title screen. So does this game canonically take place before Pikmin 2? Interesting. There's a healing quality to this song, and I can't help but gravitate toward it. Perhaps this is a machine meant to lure prey for a stronger predator. The strong do have a disproportionate advantage on this planet. Wait, then does that make me the weaker prey? My son is always playing some sort of adventure game. He becomes the hero, defeats his arch nemesis, and saves the day at last. I admire heroic figures like that, but if given a choice, I'd choose my own life again and again. Yeah, I think that's a strong sentiment to have. Remember to enjoy your own life. Anyway, when I blow air into this rock, it makes the hair on my neck stick straight up, but if I blow a little bit harder, the sound becomes crackly and soft. It's so pathetic, I can't help but burst into a fit of giggles whenever I hear it. This object rattles when you move it. It sounds quite similar to the frequency emitted by baby goods on my home planet. I imagine this would work in a pinch if you had a crying baby you needed to soothe. I wasn't surprised to discover this had been found inside a groovy Longlegs deep underground. It certainly gives off the same vibes of the creature made of inorganic and organic materials. On a separate note, every time I look at it, I want to dance. It's reminiscent of a telescope I had when I was a kid. My father and I would stare up at the skies together and talk about our discoveries. That telescope nurtured my adventurous spirit. I loved to meet the adventurer who peeked into these lenses. I was entranced by the longer needle as it spun around and around. I completely lost track of time. This object doesn't strike me as otherworldly, but whenever I look at it, it's like I can feel the space-time continuum bending around me. The arrow-like object floating in the center appears to move around at will, but it's actually always pointing in the same direction. It could be trying to point me toward my destiny, but I'd rather figure that out on my own. Everything looks so much bigger when you peer through this lens. You can see the smallest of details and all the different components that make up a single object. That's the proper way to conduct a scientific investigation. Why is it that a child's eyes always seem to light up at the sight of a train? My son was fascinating with them, and it was the first toy he ever wanted. I was the same way as a kid. Even now, I'm wishing I could hop on this train and go for a ride. Choo-choo. Long ago, railroads were the lifeblood of civilization, and the power to transport people or supplies remains key to our survival. Someone's got to move the fuel, right? I'd like to think our company plays a similar role in space. It gives meaning to the daily grind. As a student, I once took a local train, a really slow one, on a journey to wherever it was going. I was the only passenger. The unchanging scenery stretched on and on. I felt like I was the only person in the world. Sounds a lot like space travel, huh? During my first job, my parents would meet me at the train station when I got home from work. I always thought I'd do the same thing for my kids, but it's usually them waiting at the station for me now. It always warms my heart, but I wish I could return the favor. They say that following the straight and narrow path is a virtue, but I've learned firsthand that it doesn't always lead you to your destination. When I started working directly under the president of Hockertape Freight, I thought it was the inevitable next step in my career. All it led to was piles and piles of paperwork. I'll be happy if my kids take a slightly twisted route in life as long as it helps them achieve their dreams. I always slow down on sharp curves, but sometimes I crave the occasional thrill of speed. Maybe if I forced the accelerator while the parking brake was engaged, it would satisfy my desire. Sometimes I look around and wonder if civilization isn't simply the result of us all trying to satisfy our desires and just enough to stay productive. I took my son to the zoo a few years ago and he suddenly started crying. To calm him, I walked him back and forth on a path with no exhibits. We didn't see any animals that day, but I learned that sometimes the best solution is as simple as a change in direction. Some people think I don't like the concept of a set path or staying on the rails. That's not true at all. The only thing that matters to me is that I'm going in the right direction. How I get to my destination is irrelevant, much like the opinions of others. So the idea is you put your hand in the mouth and pretend it's being devoured by whatever's inside this object. Maybe some people find that funny or even romantic, but it seems like a mediocre party gag to me. I do not want to cross paths with the owner of these teeth. Of course, given the height of those molars, I'm guessing they're too big to have much in the way of physical agility. And that could work to my advantage. If we did encounter one another, I could just run in frantic circles until they eventually gave up. I'm reminded of a toothbrush I used when I was a kid. I always wanted to brush my own teeth, so when my mom finally gave up helping me, it was a sweet victory. Unfortunately, that's when I started to get cavities. I guess that's the price of independence. Brushing a child's teeth for them is hard work, made worse by the fact that they're oblivious to the perils of tooth decay. I stopped brushing our kids' teeth for a time so they could learn for themselves, but that idea did not go over too well with my wife. I look at this and I'm instantly overcome by thoughts of my mother and all the mothers out there. They represent the power of nature itself, cocooning the universe in love and fortifying it with her strength since the dawn of time. The shape resembles a mammalian appendage, but I have no idea what it actually does. It's dripping with what can only be described as beast drool. I'm hesitant to touch it, but I've got a duty to my mission, and maybe it won't be so bad if I close my eyes. The bathtub we have at home is much smaller. If we had one like this, we could use it as a hot tub and relax together as a family. Then again, it's hard to unwind when surrounded by excited children, especially ones who like to splash you in the face. I was in awe of modular robots when I was growing up. The strength and abilities impressed me to my core. I doubt anyone's ever admired me in such a way, but maybe that's not so bad. I find great satisfaction in being respected as an equal. Once I get started on something, I'm the type that can't help but keep piling on more and more for myself to do. If that's considered hard work, then I guess I like hard work. The only problem is the result of hard work isn't always good work. Very true. It's crucial to believe that you are capable of success, but just because you believe it doesn't guarantee it will happen. Then again, if you don't believe it, you're unlikely to succeed at all. That's why you have to clench your fists and remain strong in the face of every challenge. For me, the ultimate success will be returning home to my family. I believe I can. For me, love and protectiveness go hand in hand. When I think of my daughter, rambunctious, willful, a bright spark of joy, both feelings come forth at once. I'd do anything to keep her spark from fading the way mine has. If she read this now, she'd say, "Lighten up, Dad." Legs are some of the most important parts of a living organism. Not only are they used for walking and running, but that movement helps circulate blood throughout the body. Some even call legs the second heart. I wonder if my toes serve a second purpose as well. Many people don't realize that they not only have a dominant hand, but a dominant leg as well. That leg can even be more muscular or longer than its non-dominant counterpart. Too big of an imbalance between the legs can have staggering effects. This is my favorite color. I love how it imbues passion and emotion into everything it touches. Come to think of it, the first Pikmin I encountered were red. Perhaps that's why I instinctively trusted them. Colors can influence behavior in all kinds of ways. This color is very similar to that of the blue Pikmin. I prefer red. I heard that Pikmin of the same color were found in the same location. Could there be a correlation? Some creatures change their appearance to match their environment. I'd like to observe what happens to those Pikmin when exposed to other environments. Found in a dark location. Luckily, it was just bright enough to be spotted in the vicinity of purple Pikmin. I've never associated purple with strength, but I've since have to revise my thinking. Interesting. Discovered in an obscure locale alongside white Pikmin. Creatures with bright colors are usually more likely to be packing poison, while creatures with dull colorations are generally harmless. But this doesn't apply to white Pikmin. In fact, they're dangerously poisonous. No doubt they use this to their advantage. I would hardly call white a dull color. Like, white usually never mind. This color reminds me of rock Pikmin. When I first touched one, I was surprised by how cold it felt. It was a pleasant sensation, and they didn't seem to mind my curiosity. Much like this treasure, rock Pikmin were found in a dark, chilly place. How appropriate. An attractive color similar to that of the winged Pikmin that were found in its vicinity. It mystifies me how such helpless creatures have survived for so long. Their bright color makes it so easy for a predator to spot them. Needless to say, I find them to be particularly fascinating. This color reminds me of the ice emitted by the Susnevesnes. That's the snowy blowhog. It is a coincidence that I encountered this treasure and ice Pikmin in the same area. It's no coincidence that ice Pikmin are called that. If I licked one, I'm sure my tongue would stick to it. The same color as the glow Pikmin that appear while exploring at night. Many think neon colors are artificial, but they're actually the result of certain materials reacting to short wavelengths of light. So really, they are quite natural and another example of how our perception can be unreliable. Yes, very true. In fact, neon green is probably one of my favorite colors. But also, water is one of my favorite beverages because I need to stay hydrated and not let my voice die. Okay. This statue seems to be imbued with the majesty of an ancient goddess. When I look up at her, I can't help but be mesmerized by her beauty until my neck starts throbbing in pain. While looking at the statue, I found myself smiling and petting its head for no discernible reason. It must possess a magical ability to captivate people and convince them to do its bidding. How can something so devious and manipulative be so cute? This looks a lot like a figurine my son learned about in school. I've always wondered why she wears goggles. What does she have to hide? Maybe a secret past with another ancient statue floating around out there. I look forward to discussing this theory with my son. Could I be related to the person who modeled for this statue? While examining it earlier, I found myself striking the same pose without even realizing it. If we do share the same genes, how did they end up on this side of space? What manner of calamities had befallen the planet at the time this statue was created? Apocalyptic catastrophes, extreme weather, the wrath of the gods. The questions that artifacts like this inspire are what make them truly valuable. I've never been the type to give up. No matter how many times I fall, I'll always get back up again. At first I thought I could practice alongside this machine, but its stubby body reminds me too much of the president. One glance at it, and I lose all motivation to continue. Looking upon this warrior's calming vestige is a peaceful way to spend an hour. The eyes seem to see through everything, as if their gaze is freeing you from the darkness of your mind. Perhaps I've stumbled upon the sacred key to life's greatest questions. I can't pinpoint the exact moment, but this reminds me of the face my wife once made when I delivered a perfectly executed dad joke. What a mysterious and fluffy creatures. I can't find evidence of them in any of the existing creature databases, but there's something familiar about them. It's almost as if I've met them before. I guess I'll chalk it up to an ancient memory that's been imprinted on my genome. Okay. Quantifying the warmth in your heart. What a brilliant idea. The next time there's a mix-up between my wife and me, I can just show her the numerical value of my feelings for her, and then we could use it on her, and actually that part might backfire. What? Oh, is he like saying that maybe she doesn't love him as much? Oh. Tasks in space require accurate timing. Docking a spaceship is a good example of that. If the monitors on my ship were to break, I need to measure the time using my instincts alone. This is the perfect tool to help me develop an accurate sense of time. But it's not a watch, it's just you click it to... Okay. I may be able to embed this on the wall of the ship's computer room. It could be useful for making manual calculations should the ship's AI ever crash unexpectedly. Space pilots need to be prepared for any emergency, and I'll take all the help I can get. This is an extremely sturdy calculator. I never thought sturdiness was a necessary quality for a calculator, but I do recall my wife recalculating our monthly budgets multiple times after shopping trips with extreme vigor. And the calculations I've used for both life and work do have a tendency to get thrown around. I guess the craftsmen on this planet had the right idea. A strange life form that mimics an octopus. We've discovered other creatures that use mimicry, but in this case it's fairly unconvincing. I'm not even sure if it is a life form. I intend to dissect it to investigate further, but first I will try one tiny bite. It's disturbing to see a mouth that can be removed like a cap. If it were reattached improperly, would the bodily fluids simply pour right out? I remember when a supposedly airtight container of mine once failed. My bag smelled like onion soup for a week. A fossil excavated at the beach. From its shape, I can deduce that it was cast by an aquatic creature. That could indicate the current site of the beach was once the ocean floor. Discovered along a mountain stream? What? Along a mountain stream. Its shape reminds me of the type of footwear used in moving through shallow waters. Perhaps this creature mimicked the shoe prints of this planet's inhabitants as a way to hide in plain sight and steal their food. The spear looks like a rocket from the early days of space exploration. It may even conceal some kind of high propulsive force within, but I hope it has a more romantic history and that it protected explorers as they sailed through space, pursuing their dreams. Ah, my little girl has always been the princess of our household. If there was a miniature version of this, I'd love to present it to her as her own personal fork. I can imagine it now. She'd be so ecstatic, swinging it all around, wreaking havoc, scaring the dog. Never mind, I think our little princess is a tad too spirited for a gift like this. Careful, this tool is very sharp. Its original owner must have wanted to pierce or crack things open at any cost. As a lover and preserver of unique objects, I'm not quite sure I understand the purpose or value of an item such as this. During slow days at work, I like to play this game where I use the zero gravity to float toy rockets in front of the ship's window. Then I act out scenes from my favorite childhood TV shows and pretend there's a galactic war going on in the distance. I should probably edit these notes before the president asks to review them. I think this might be a tool for warding off predators. Perhaps if I attached it to my back, the creatures of this planet would be deterred from chasing me. I could test this theory on the Pikmin. Of course, they might end up carrying me instead, treasure and all. I like pressing the different directions of the mathematical symbol, but there's something captivating about the two round buttons. I can't help but want to push them over and over as fast as I can. I don't want to break them, but I don't want to stop either. How interesting that the artist used a black plank as a canvas and how they chose to depict the pilot. They look like the type that works hard for their beloved family, though the design of the spaceship is all wrong. Good luck flying that thing through narrow meteor crevices. I might need to actually look at that to see what's actually printed on the cartridge. It's a bit unusual to call something a masterpiece before you read it, but I've got one good feeling about this one. I think it's meant for children. But is it about a boy or a girl? Hopefully both. It's been hard to please everyone in the audience at bedtime lately. This machine is equipped with an advanced vibration feature. The vibrations seem to be communicating in a vacuum, perhaps trying to reach out to its corresponding system, which has likely been lost to time. Who knows what the machine is trying to say, but it's telling me something about the sadness of abandoned technology. Sharing is one of civilization's most important virtues. We share food, shelter, stories, and sometimes even checks. I can only hope this belief is also held by the president of our company. I'd like him to share in the form of a holiday bonus this year. I don't have a creative cell in my body, but my daughter somehow avoided this genetic deficiency. When she's drawing, she becomes so absorbed by her art, it's as if she can't hear a word I say. That, or she's just ignoring me. I have no idea, where am I? Just ignoring it. I have no idea if what she draws is any good, but the ability to focus on something so deeply is a talent enough. Either way, her future is bright. Space is a funny place. You can be using the latest in galaxy navigation technology and still find yourself lost in a sea of space trash. But that's life, isn't it? If you want to advance, you've got to be flexible. That also applies to settling marital disagreements. I sort of see the winged aspect, but mostly this reminds me of a model spaceship I played with as a kid. The overall design is perfect for transcending all kinds of atmospheric barriers. Plus, it looks cool. What your eyes might see is not an exact representation of reality. We can only see one part of the world within a narrow range of visible light. This magnificent device proves that theory. I'd love to show it to my kids one day. It would boggle their minds. I'm picky when it comes to music, but I'm fascinated by how a melody can perfectly capture a person's soul or even a specific feeling. I wonder what my song would be. I'd like to think it would sound bold and romantic and reflect my adventurous career. Maybe I should just write it myself. The ability to stay balanced is critical to exploration and space travel. It's okay to lose your balance as long as you can regain it right away. This tool is perfect for strengthening that skill. The only problem is I can't get it to move forward when I'm on my back. These shutters make it difficult to see clearly ahead, so I'm not sure why they'd be found in a dark cave, and it's not as if they could be used as a proper hiding place. They remind me of playing hide-and-seek with my kids and pretending not to see them. This tasty red snack isn't quite a fruit, but it doesn't seem like a vegetable either. I've analyzed it extensively, and whenever I think I've settled the matter, I discover something new that calls it all into question. This is why I'm not a scientist by trade. When I was a student, a girl in my class asked me to go shopping with her. It would have been rude to refuse, so I went. My friends kept hassling me, saying it was a date. It was so embarrassing, but come to think of it, my wife asked me out soon after that. I wonder if she was jealous. This plant grows so fast it reminds me of my own children. One day they are little babies in my arms. The next day they sprouted into fully fledged people. I have my wife to thank for that. She does so much while I'm so frequently away for work. I once saw a prototype of a spaceship shaped a lot like this. Unfortunately, it didn't fly straight. It just spun around in place. Examples like that are why I prefer a more traditional approach. Being original for the sake of originality is usually a waste of time. Kinda true. During my explorations, I found vegetables like this. I've never seen anything like them. This dark-dwelling vegetable stores all of its nutritious energy in its roots. I think the name it's been given, Child of the Earth, is very fitting. When my son was born, I was almost immediately worried about him, but it was different with my daughter. I sensed from the start that she was a strong-willed and sturdy. A sweeter version of her mother. This daughter of the earth reminds me of her. Large, and the size is right for retrofitting into some sort of vehicle, maybe a carriage. But then, what do you do with all the goopy insides? Flippantly throw them out the window as you roll away in your fancy new transport. Never. I am vehemently opposed to wasting food. I don't need any special tools to break open the shell, and the fruit inside is edible. Cracking these open is so satisfying that I find myself getting carried away and opening more than I could possibly eat. Note to self, work on moderation. The shape of this fruit looks a lot like my grandpa's face. It's so similar that if I were to name it, I'd call it a grampy face fruit. Interesting. My wife always thought my taste in names was catastrophically bad, which is why she named both of our children. But I think this one has a certain ring to it. I wonder if we'll ever get a name for his wife and children, but probably not. The first time I rode in a spaceship, I was a student working part-time for an interspace transportation company. The excitement I felt during that first launch was unforgettable. The iconic rocket engraved on the shield reminds me of that moment. When I was little, I'd look at pictures of the planets and imagine that the rings around them were roads you could travel on. Of course, once I got to space, I learned that those rings are usually made of dust particles. I've never been so disappointed. Someone told me that when a satellite is decommissioned, some of its lights will start to blink spontaneously as it falls through the atmosphere. It's likely a glitch, but I'd like to believe the satellite's sending one last message before burning up into nothingness. The figure on the shield is wearing something quite similar to our spacesuits. That would mean these living beings must have looked something like us. I wonder who they were and what their faces looked like. Could they have been our ancestors who migrated through space to our planet long ago? That's the theory I'm going with. I often encounter comets and meteors on the job, and collisions are bound to happen. I once had to make a crash landing for that very reason. I like to look back at those events as unexpected adventures, but at the time, they're pretty harrowing. Even though it's awkward to handle, I assume it's a weapon of some kind. I like how lightweight and user-friendly it is, but I'm not sure how effective it would be against most threats. Either way, it's a lot of fun to play with. It must have been pretty hard to see this sword in the forest as it would blend in with the foliage. Applying apathetic... No. Is that... Apathetic would have an H. Apathetic, whatever. Coloration to a weapon is more than just practical. It's brilliant. I'm always amazed at the creative solutions that float around in the minds of others. I visited a few icebound planets while delivering cargo throughout space. Based on my experience, I find it hard to believe this material could withstand such a severe environment. I think it's likely this object was used for another purpose. My son used to have a toy sword in similar color. He was obsessed with it and brought that sword everywhere he went, including the dinner table. That it is until I explained that it was dishonorable for a hero to attack a weaker citizen wielding only a fork. I mean, that is true, but great way to have him stop. With all these different colored swords, I assume that the armies on this planet color-coded their troops. An entire unit with matching weapons and uniforms would have been a sight to behold. I'm sure this color especially stood out. I still have so much more, and I need more water if I want my voice to stay, active. They say it's possible to float this unfloatable boat with the help of divine intervention. That sounds a lot like luck to me. I've had my fair share of bad luck, but at least I've been fortunate enough to survive. Anyhow, my chances don't look good. I am much more used to seeing fish painted in profile instead of from the top down. I suspect this is supposed to float on the water, but I'd be quite startled to encounter a fish like this under normal circumstances. The movement of the universe always seems slow to me, but it's a matter of perspective. Maybe the movement of this object is how a higher power perceives it. We are all so small in the grand scheme. I get dizzy thinking about the epic scale of space, or is it just the space spinner? Attaching an intangible wish to a tangible object seems to be a universal habit. I wish for my family's happiness, but haven't quite found the right talisman to attach it to. My family must be wishing for my safe return. I hope they have better luck. This bird reminds me of a mythical creature famous for granting immortality to those brave enough to seek it out. I have no interest in living forever, or maybe the idea of risking my life for the sole purpose of avoiding death just sounds a bit wonky to me. Why not enjoy the time you have while you have it? Anyway, this is a nice shade of red. To have a charm that's solely devoted to financial luck comes off as vulgar and gives me an icky feeling. On the other hand, money is a necessity, and that's an inescapable fact. Well, there is one escape. More money. Wouldn't that be nice to have a bit more? I am deeply moved when I imagine the ancient peoples entrusting this small, smooth ball with their hopes and dreams, then passing it down through the ages. It'd be a comfort to know that my dreams won't die with me, but will somehow transcend time. I'm so bemused by the idea of catching a dream, but it's difficult to achieve in practice. I still haven't been able to catch the ball with the spike upright. Perhaps I need to try an easier angle, but that would diminish the challenge, and thus the quality of the dream? Don't worry too much if it deflates. Simply pump more air in the top hole, and the original shape is restored. The material, though paper thin, seems to repel water. Such an inspiring creation. Only the most advanced civilization could conceive of such a work of art. It's like a metaphor for both the fragility and durability of life itself. I guess so. I once had a trump card, a premium license given only to first-rate space navigation officers that allows you to bypass the arduous license renewal process. But I'm sure I lost that qualification with this recent accident. Guess it's back to annual visits to the license renewal planet on the edge of space. The lines are always so long. I guess, I mean, why would you lose it for, like, one crash? I guess if, that's the, and, like, you could say, hey, the meteor, and by the way, like, I managed to get off the planet, but, like, I had to go back, I don't know. Does true evil really exist? I can't say for sure, but I have seen him smile like this before. It often graces the face of the president of Hakatape Freight, usually when he's asking me to work overtime, unpaid. So I guess I can confirm that true evil exists. True. Some might look at this and see a symbol for life, but this treasure better represents courage. The two are closely related, of course. Power and wisdom also have roles to play, but without the courage to take that first step, your journey cannot begin. There's physical power, and then there's mental power. Anyone who's witnessed an argument between me and my wife could clearly see who's quicker on their feet in the heat of the moment. That doesn't bother me so much. I just wish I had the same fortitude and wit to stand up to the president. Possessing wisdom isn't always a good thing. Sure, you can examine a subject from multiple angles, but you can also get stuck in a maze of thoughts. Am I envious of people who can just act on instinct without overthinking every last detail? Let's see, I don't. Maybe? Oops. Okay. Luckily, we're almost at the end. Looking at these symbols all lined up, I feel my heartbeat quicken. And yes, I feel this rush of warmth that must be love. This kind of love says, cherish all things. Love yourself. Love your enemies. Love everything. It's a tall order, but I will try. My mind wanders to dark places when I look at these symbols. All I see are gemstones and ill-gotten... Oh, wait. Oh, okay. If these travels through space and my time spent observing various life forms have taught me anything, it's that love can take many forms. Some creatures get the nutrition they need to grow their eggs by eating their mates, but that's just an extreme example. The love I feel for my family and the passion I have for my work are so very important to me, but so is money. Love and passion are all well and good, but you can't appreciate any of it if you go hungry, and you'll go hungry in this universe without money. In my line of work, it's crucial to stay on top of your to-do list. When things are busy, it's easy to get sloppy and let things slide. But that's when consistency matters most. There's nothing like that rush of joyful relief you feel when crossing off a task. Appears to have the same composition as the gold on my planet. I've heard that some heavy elements like gold are created during rare collisions between neutron stars. But to think the same element exists on a faraway planet reminds me, space is so vast. I lived through some harrowing events, and the trick to surviving in space is to prepare for every possible situation. But this is technically and literally impossible. Sometimes you just need to roll the dice, hope for the best, and let the universe do its thing. Having to choose 1 out of 20 possible scenarios during a voyage through space would be an object lesson in randomness, and very unfortunate on the minuscule chance it should ever occur. The only solution would be to throw up your hands and laugh. When I gaze at this stone, I can feel my fate being forecasted. It must know what's going to happen to me. I'm sure that it sees that I'll be hailed as a brilliant, visionary, and brave explorer when I return to Hakatape. Maybe not by the Hakatations, but at least by the players, probably. While exploring, I'm often faced with the difficult question, which way do I go, north, south, east, or west? A tool like this could be useful in those moments. Of course, one roll would be too random. It'd be best to roll it 100 times and take the average result. I hope to one day celebrate a high-numbered birthday, but I don't think there will be any large birds in attendance at that party. Just think of how much trouble they could cause. If space has taught me anything, it's to plan for the worst-case scenario. Springtime always reminds me of the day I moved out of my parents' house. At first, everything was fresh and exciting, but I quickly realized that life on my own was a lot harder than I expected. I also realized I should thank my parents for all they'd done for me. When my son was little, he thought the moon was just a powdered donut in the sky. He would cry and cry, "I want to eat the moon." Apparently, I was the same way. These days, he loves to look at the moon through a telescope. Guess the apple doesn't fall far. I love rainy days. They're the perfect time to catch up on paperwork, relax a bit, and dream about my next big adventure. That is, if I have any energy left after entertaining my kids who can't go outside to play when it's wet. I'll take what I can get. Maybe this object would help increase productivity at Hocotate Freight. So would a better spaceship. Maybe it's my fault. If I stopped miraculously surviving such dangerous situations, the president might realize we need to upgrade our equipment. Okay. So it's like he makes it out of every tight scenario, but because of that, he doesn't get a spaceship upgrade because the president thinks, oh, our current equipment's fine. Anyway, that is all the treasure catalog for both Olimar and Louie, and that is a lot. I was planning to do the Piclopedia, but I guess I'll have to do it next time and extend it to 3 bonus episodes. But for now, my name has been and will be tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that, and the day after that, and it always will be Pun Food. Through reading the treasure catalog, we were able to learn about the greatest treasure of all, Olimar's family.